Hey, 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 happy Friday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. And tonight, I'm going to share a how to play as well as review Thieves Den from Daily Magic Games. So without further ado, let's get started. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. So tonight is Friday, February 21st, 2020. It is episode 445 of The Daily Dope. This is your first time tuning in to check out the show, be it live or on Memorex. Do want to point out it's very, very casual, just kind of covering tabletop gaming. RPGs, board games, card games, you have it. Sometimes there's a little bit of tabletop gaming news. I have a bit more about what's going on with that in just a little bit. But it's it's not rocket surgery. It's not anything going to be crucial here. So especially tonight when I do a how to play as well as review Thieves Den from Daily Magic Games, if I forget something or if I kind of gloss over something, no one's head's going to explode, right? It's just gaming. We're just having fun. Do want to mention, because this is a live stream, if you are watching on YouTube, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But I do my best to pay attention to the chat. So if you're out there and you'd like to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question or a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to reply to your question or comment or what have you. So do want to also mention, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that little bell, because it will not only notify you of when the Daily Dope goes live, it'll also tell you when I upload my standalone videos as well, which I will have a standalone video this weekend. I'm hoping to do it this weekend. And we will actually be taking a look at the Deck of Many Planets for Starfinder from Paizo Inc. I figured I'll do a standalone video for this because I'm sure it's only going to take a few minutes to take a look at the decks. I believe there's like 102 cards in here. That should be pretty cool. Paizo did send me a few different items, and once I'm done with my how to play and review, I will actually tell you what to expect on the Daily Dope next week. All right, so without further ado, and it looks like might be pretty quiet tonight on a Friday night. May not have a lot of people hanging out in chat tonight. I do know a couple of people do have, a couple of regulars do have their gaming night this evening, but I am going to take a quick peek just to make sure that there is not a problem with the chat, because every once in a while I will actually start a show and nobody's in chat, and it turns out that there are actually people in chat. It's just not picking up the chat. But looks like we're okay. All right, good deal. So the chat is showing up. There we go. Kabuki Kid is in chat. See, look at that. Just mentioned, kind of weird. Nobody's in chat. So Kabuki Kid says their usual gaming night is Mondays. Well, I guess you don't have to worry about having a case of the Mondays then. All right. Without further ado, I do want to point out there's no tabletop gaming news tonight. I am not going to be sharing tabletop gaming news on the show. Obviously, it's on thegaminggang.com. But I will not be sharing tabletop gaming news all through next week. I just want to see what the viewer numbers look like when people don't have to sit through, 20 minutes of tabletop gaming news. Although I like providing the news, I know a lot of people out there enjoy the news as well. So Melwinius Cyrano Olfram from York is joining us once again. Good to see you, Melwinius. Oh damn, I'll miss these. Well, the show's not going away yet. We're gonna see what happens next week without news. But I don't know, it's weird. Sometimes we get a decent number of views, sometimes we get hardly anything. So I think yesterday's show is actually like 60 for my review of X Oblivion for Delta Green from Arc Dream Publishing. Yeah, no, we'll see. I usually pull in a lot of viewers for like D&D and Pathfinder and GMT stuff. Other stuff's kind of hit or miss. You never know. All right, anyway, as I mentioned, I'm going to share a bit of a how to play and review of Thieves Den from Daily Magic Games. Have been playing around with the overhead camera as well, so I think we may have the issue where suddenly it's out of focus for a bit. I think we have going to have put that issue to bed. Fingers crossed, we will find out in a few minutes. Anyway, Thieves Den is, as I mentioned, from Daily Magic Games. It's designed by Alice Davis with artwork provided by Dennis Martinez. The game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up. Plays in around 45 minutes. That's about right, with maybe about 3 or 4. I think you're probably looking closer to 60 with a full 5 players, but this game does move rather quickly. Does carry an MSRP of $50. It is available now. This was successfully kickstarted, and I originally did a preview of Thieves Den for Daily Magic Games when they did the Kickstarter. So this is actually the finished product. So we're going to swing on over to the other camera here. So I've got this kind of laid out. I've got it stretching sideways simply because the board runs kind of north and south here, but it's kind of difficult to get that into the shot and share some other things as well. Thieves Den is a relatively light worker placement game. There's a bit of card drafting mechanics to it. There's even a touch of set collection as well. So the premise is that each of the players is a wannabe master of the Thieves Guild, and they're motivating the various different thieves of the city to work for them, and you're trying to earn prestige points, or what I like to always refer to as victory points. And if you finish up the 3 rounds of the game with the highest total of prestige points, then you, my friend, become the master of the Thieves Guild. Until Fofford and Grey Mouser come by, and then you go murder the loves of their lives, and they come and burn the place to the ground, basically. So you get to be master of the Thieves Guild until that happens in Lankmar, right? Little Fritz Leiper references there. All right, so anyway, we are actually going to kind of tour around this a little bit. I will zoom in. We'll get a better look at some of these items as well. Each of the players are going to start off. They're going to have a player board, and each player has space on their board for their scheme card, which goes in this center spot here. We've got room for 8 treasures as well as 6 thieves. Each of the players will start off with 3 thieves. And these are kind of cool. These are little plastic meeples kind of in the shape of thieves. And so that is going to be your boards that everybody's going to start off with. We are actually going to keep some of our scoring cards on both the right side as well as the left side of our player boards. We do also keep some cards each round on top of our player boards. And I will kind of zoom in and show that off as we kind of move throughout the how to play. We have this area up here, which is going to show us our fences with our fence cards, because we are motivating and pulling the strings of the thieves of the city. They are stealing treasures, and we can fence those treasures for those prestige points. So those are here. On the board itself, we have a prestige point tracker that's running around the side. Victory point tracker, basically. goes up to 80. And how we were basically marking it off is that we would have our thieves standing up. And then if we got more than 80 points, because it can happen, then we would just lay them down so we know, okay, add 80 to that total. Not that I think we really needed to go through that, because it's, 3, 4, 5 players. It's pretty obvious, I should say, when somebody passes 80 victory points. It's, kind of a standout thing. But just in case, kind of the same thing we do with Carcassonne. If you kind of lap the board as far as your points, just kind of flip that on over. So we got the different fences. We will take a look at the fences as well. We've got the city itself. We've got what's known as power tiles. We've got the city where we have all these different treasures that are just kind of kept in a common supply. There is a limited resource aspect to this game. There are only so many thieves, and there are only so many treasures to go around as well. As I mentioned, each of the players will start with 3 thieves. So we've got the city here with all the various different treasures. We got potions, we got artifacts, we've got tomes, we've got jewels, and I'm forgetting one. So there are 5 different kinds of treasures out there for you to partake in. So we've got that area here. And of course, these are areas where you're going to place your thieves, your workers. It's your worker placement. So we've got some that have big circles, such as this and this. That means you can have more than one thief partaking in that action during the round. Many other things that are going on in the game, you can only have one thief in a location. We also have a deck of location cards. So we've got all various different places for your thieves to burgle. And this is where the card drafting aspect of the game comes in, because you're going to have your little scheme card, which I'll talk about in just a few moments. And one of the things you'll try to do is you're going to try to collect paired sets of specific location types for you to score extra bonus prestige points at the end of the game. We also do have down here, we have what's known as the Witch's Hut, where you can actually sell treasures to the witch for instant prestige points as well. And then for our final scoring at the end of the game, we do score for our fence cards, and this gives us the prestige points for each type of the fences. And what happens is, at the end of the game, whoever has the most fences of a specific type will score these victory points. Not everyone gets these victory points for each and every one of their fences. And of course, as you can see, we've got anywhere from 3 to 5 prestige points. You'll notice that there are going to be rarer fences that score you those 5 prestige points. Plus, those fences also tend to have a little higher prestige points and requirements as far as treasures and such. All right, so we've kind of toured the board. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in a bit, and I'm going to show you some of these various different cards that we've got and kind of explain what each of these do. So first off, I'm actually going to take a closer look at the player board. So allow me to move on in. So this is where we should be okay as far as the issues we've had a couple of times with the focus, the video going out of focus. We should be okay. Because like I said, I've been playing around with settings on the Panasonic G85 today. So once again, as I mentioned, this is the player board. Everybody's going to have a player board. I'm going to get these out of the way for a second so we can kind of center this up. So this is where you're going to keep your thieves. And this is where you're going to keep your treasure, and you're also going to keep your scheme card. So to begin the game, each of the players will receive a scheme card. And the scheme card looks like so. So basically what it's telling me is for every set of these 2 types of locations, I will score extra prestige points. So if I have 1 set at the end of the game, I get 2 prestige points all the way up to 12 for 4 or more. So this is something you're going to want to keep in mind when you're going through the card drafting phase of Thieves Den, because you want to try to get these sets. But once you have 4, you don't really need to really try to go much further than that. All right, so we've got this. So that is your scheme, right? So that card would go here, but it's also going to go face down. So only you know what your scheme is. As I mentioned before, you're going to take your treasures and you will put your treasures right here as you burgle them, as you collect your treasures. So the most treasures you can have are 8, and the most thieves that you can have working for you on your board is 6. Anything above 6 is actually returned to the supply. And once again, what you'll do as far as setting up for your thieves that are in the common supply is 3 thieves per player. But it is possible for players to end up kind of getting screwed on the number of thieves. There is a take that mentality to this game. And the way each player takes their approach to a round is going to be different as well. It can be very asymmetrical because there is a bit of a tableau building aspect to this as well. So if you got a nice engine running, you're going to actually get to do more things than your fellow players will. So I will admit, one of the gang did not like that aspect. They thought it was kind of unfair. But the thing is, we have this little token here, and this is to show who goes first and in what direction do we go around the table. So whoever has the fewest number of prestige points during the round, second and third round, is going to receive this. So they will get to go first. And then we go clockwise, and then in the second round, we're going counterclockwise. Pretty easy. I love the artwork to this game. I think just the style of the game is very nice. Everything is really, really well done. Only issue I've got component-wise is I believe that the cardstock could have been a bit thicker. It is just, it's a little thin for my personal taste. And because you figure you've got these square cards for the fences, it's much more difficult to find the sleeves to go on these square cards. But these cards are rather thin. They do have a nice finish to them, though, so they're not going to just completely fall apart. But I do want to point out, I would have liked to have seen that a bit thicker as far as the cardstock. Yeah, these player boards are really nice. There's artwork on the back that I thought was kind of cool too, which is actually the forest or the thieves kind of hang out when you're not using them, the thief supply. So other than that, I think the component quality is really, really well done. Rules themselves, very easy. Just a few pages. Get through plenty of illustrations as well. So we've got the overview. Fossils, that was the other thing. I couldn't remember what the other treasure was. They're fossils. So we've got the location cards. We're going to take a look at those in just a second. We're going to take a look at what the fence cards look like as well. And you'll kind of go through the gameplay. But effectively, this is it. This is your gameplay. A couple of pages, and then we got the game end. So this is actually really rather easy to jump into and start playing. All right, so let's look at some of these cards. So as I mentioned, that there is a card drafting aspect to Thieves Den. And what will happen is each of the players, to begin their round. Now remember, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your player board, you're going to get your thieves, and you are going to get your scheme. So it's a good idea for you to kind of remember what these two are so that when you are drafting your locations, you're probably going to want to try to get those locations. So each player is going to get 4 cards. And what's going to happen is you're going to do a bit of a draft. So we're going to look at the cards. And I'll kind of give you a breakdown of what these cards actually represent. So this is the kind of location. So as you can see here, this is the keep. This is the worker placement location. If you put a thief there, you score 2 fossils and an artifact. If it belongs to you, that's what you get. If it belongs to another player and you decide you're going to put your thief there, you'll still score this booty here, but they happen to receive a fossil themselves for you deciding to place your thief there. Once the thief is placed, it remains until the end of the round. Once the round is finished, the thieves will be returned to the supply. It's important to keep in mind, you don't want to spend all of your thieves in one turn. You're going to try to get more thieves whenever you can, but you don't want to end up your round without any thieves, because you're going to be stuck. You're not going to be able to do anything that upcoming round. So that was something that I had to kind of explain to Cameron when we first played this with Hunter as well as Cameron's girlfriend Lexi. I had to tell him, I'm like, dude, don't spend all of your thieves. Make sure you got something left to start off the next round. Otherwise, nothing for you to do. So we've got, that's the keep. This is an armory. As you can see here, this would get us a set of 3 relics. Bone pit would give us 3 fossils. We have some with some cards that have a little sliver of a moon symbol. That's if you're going to play 2-player games. There's a little bit different gameplay and rules if you're only playing with 2 players, which is kind of cool, because if the rules were exactly the same, it would not be all that great. As I mentioned before, we really enjoy this game. This represents wild cards. So these are any treasure you want. Got the mausoleum. So here we see the mausoleum is actually going to give us a nice selection. And what you're going to use those treasures for are one of 2 things. You're going to use them either to sell to the witch, or you are going to use those treasures to get a fence. So what you'll end up doing is, as you go through, every player is going to end up with 3 location cards. There are some, let me see where we can find one. Some have a little lightning bolt. Why are these not in the correct? I hate when games get put away and the cards are not facing the right way. So some of them are just giving us different treasures. Some are giving us different other items. Thieves. So for an example, here, this is one I was looking for. So this is a lightning bolt. So this lightning bolt means this takes place instantly. So if I draft this card, I will instantly get 3 more thieves. So we've got some, for an example here, the bank. Got the bank, you play the bank, boom, you immediately get that jewel. As you can see, there's no little hexagon for you to place your thief. There's no worker space on those. Regardless, what you'll end up doing is you're going to have these 3 locations. You're going to place them actually above. Move this over here. I'm going to place them above your player board. So these are the active locations. So each player is going to have active locations. And they're not just your locations. These are just locations that any of the thieves can go and burgle from. So if you're playing, say, a 3-player game, you're going to have 9 locations every turn. Now, what'll happen is, if, for an example, let's say I went to the mansion as one of my actions, and I place my thief there, then I would get the jewel, the artifact, and the potion, which, once again, remember, we're going to take our treasures, we're going to fill up these chests here, and that's where we're going to actually, this is our supply of treasures that we can use. So we can use these to actually get a fence, or we can actually go to the witch, which I'll point that out again when I zoom back out. We can go to the witch and actually spend treasures. But the biggest thing that we're going to be doing with the treasures will be working with fences, because the fences are going to give us prestige points right up front. So to kind of give you an idea, I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to bring down just a few of these fences just to kind of show you what I'm talking about here. And this is actually kind of an easy fence. So as one of our actions, what I can do is I can decide I'm going to go fence my treasures. So effectively what I would do, I have to use a thief to do it. Put my thief there. And then I also have to pay the treasures. So I can either put them on the card like this just to show that I have paid for them, or I can just return them to the supply. Doesn't really matter. If you're one of these people who don't necessarily trust other players at the table, maybe you want to do this. Or if you're just teaching somebody how to play, maybe you'll want to just put the treasures on the fence card so that you know what's going on. So what you'll do is you'll place your treasures and your thief on the fence card, and then you get the fence card. So you'll get the fence card. This fence card is worth 5 prestige points. So I would mark off 5 points on the prestige track that runs around the board. So we keep track of these prestige points as we earn them. Plus we get some bonus prestige points at the end of the game. So this would be worth 5. And this also will show us this is the type of fence that is available. And as I mentioned before, I'll get some of these fences out of the way so we can show this off again. This is where you've got the different fences, whoever has the most at the end of the game. So for an example, if we earned this fence and at the end of the game, we had the most of this symbol, this type of fence, we would score an extra 5 prestige points. So it's important to kind of not only keep in mind using your treasures to get prestige points by getting the fences, but you want to try to focus on specific fences that you start getting so that you end up having the most. Because at the end of the game, these prestige points are a big deal. They really, really are. I find normally when we're playing, once we get this final scoring here, the game scoring can be pretty tight, pretty close. We'll also mention though, if someone's not really paying a whole lot of attention while they play the game, it is pretty easy to get walked all over, and left in the dust. Although, like I said, there is that mechanic where the person with the fewest prestige points gets to go first, because there is an advantage to going first because you're filling up these different locations for the workers. So, give you an example. Here's another fence. So this fence requires a jewel and 2 artifacts. Use your thief there, and you would score 9 prestige points. As I mentioned, there's a bit of a tableau building aspect to the game as well. There are a lot of little mechanics that are going on, mechanisms going on in this game that really makes this stand out. And to me, I find this to be mainly, I guess we'll say it's mainly a worker placement game. But I also want to say that this is a very easy game to introduce people to if you're looking to kind of get into stuff that's not just Risk, Monopoly. For years, for almost a decade, when I've told people that, hey, yeah, I cover board games. My website, my channel, I do videos all about board games, and people are always like, "Oh, you mean like the game of life? You mean like Monopoly?" So this is an easy game to teach people to play. If I were teaching someone to play it, I'd probably be done in 10 minutes. But since we're kind of taking our time, we're relaxing, it's a Friday night, it's kind of taking my time, kind of showing you how this game plays. So I also mentioned we got these power tiles. So there are 12 of these power tiles. you're actually going to put 3 stacks of 3. So these power tiles are going to be different every game. Although, granted, you got a possible 12 to have your 9 slots. And what you do here is basically you spend a treasure. Let's pretend I still have some treasure, right? You spend a treasure to be able to take advantage of the specific power. And it's all these little icons. So I do have to point out that thankfully we got a little power tile clarification that explains exactly what's going on with each of these tiles. So I mean, some of them is pretty simple. It's gain 3 prestige, gain any treasure that you want. Some are a little more complex. We also have a handful of cards. There's only 4 that I guess Daily Magic Games thought were a little tricky. So they wanted to share that little bit of clarifications here as well. And then on back, we got a little quick play guide. But as I mentioned before, really all your game rules are right there in front of you. And then you can just leave this out. I would have liked to have seen maybe just little cards that kind of had a breakdown of what you can do in your turn, but it's not that big a deal. So anyway, as I mentioned, you'll have these power tiles here that you can utilize. You also have here where if you decide you want to place 2 thieves, you can receive a treasure of your choice. You can also spend 2 treasure. Say I had these 2 treasure to gain the thief. So that's another aspect of something I can do in my turn. Or I can actually sell a treasure to the witch. So we see the potions are the least valuable as far as the witch is concerned. Then we've got the fossils, the artifacts, the jewels, and the tomes. So if I were to decide to, well, let's say I've got a fossil, I could sell that fossil, get 2 prestige points, bing, bing, right away. And that's that. This is a location that once these are occupied, then you cannot. So for an example, if I play the fossil here, I sell the fossil to the witch, no one else in that round is going to be able to sell that fossil to the witch. So those are the things that you can actually do in your turn. You can try to get a fence. Get a fence by giving them the treasures. You can, and of course using a thief. You can burgle a location, be it yours or someone else's. You're going to place your thief there. Those are the treasures you're going to get. And if it wasn't my location, if I was going to someone else's location, they would score that as well. So we can do that. We can spend thieves to get a treasure. We can spend treasures to get a thief. And that, in essence, is what you'll be doing throughout. So if you play pretty cleverly... Oh, I'm sorry. We can also play the power tiles. I missed the power tiles. Just got done talking about the power tiles, and then I forget to say, yeah, that's something else you can do. So you're going to continue on through 3 rounds. So a round will essentially run until there's nothing for you to do and you have to pass. Once everyone is passed, then you're going to move on to the next round. When you move on to the next round, very simple cleanup. What you're going to do is everybody's going to take their locations that they've had above their player board, and they're going to place those face down to the left of the player board, because now these enter into that set collecting aspect of the game. So these now belong to you. So that's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to take your fences that you've got. Those go face down, and those go to the right of your player board. So like so. You're going to take the thieves that are at the locations. Of course, they're going to go back into the supply. The thieves that are here on the board, they go back into the supply. Essentially, the thieves that you've spent are going to return to the supply, except for a few exceptions. But normally, as I pointed out before, you're going to want to pass when you still have some thieves in your den. Because if you spend all of your thieves, you're going to start the next round not being able to do anything. Except maybe spend treasures to get thieves. But as far as the locations and things like that, you're going to be out of luck. So you're going to continue this for 3 rounds. Once everybody has completed the 3rd round, of course, we have the score tracking that goes around the board itself. And then you're going to go into your final scoring. So your final scoring, you're basically going to look at your scheme card. You're going to reveal your scheme card, and you're going to show the other players what sets you've collected for the scheme card. And it's important to keep in mind, it is not this as well as that, as like this or that or this and that. Like you get points for each of these. You have to have a set of one of each. So as I mentioned before, if you have a set of these 2, one of them, you get 2 bonus prestige points. As far as the fences, then once again, everybody's going to kind of divvy up their fences into the different types. They're up in the upper corner. And then once you've done that, you're going, I can see that we haven't played this. Well, we didn't sort these out after we played, because you notice I've got a bunch of these, like they're all the same, because that's how you score them. So anyway, so then what you're going to do is you're going to use your fences. You're going to score your bonus prestige points there, and whoever's got the most prestige points is going to be the winner. Leftover treasures, leftover thieves don't count for anything unless there is a tie. If there is a tie, and we have played this quite a few times, and I've yet to see a tie. But if there is a tie, then the player who's got the most treasures and thieves on their player board is the winner. That said, you don't want to be sitting there after the third round's going to end, and you're going to end up having thieves on your board. No. Use them. Use them in the 3rd round. Save a couple, 1 or 2 at least, between the 1st and 2nd and the 2nd and 3rd. But when you're finishing up the 3rd, wrap it up. All right, so all in all, that is how you play Thieves Den from Daily Magic Games. Hopefully the camera focus has been pretty good tonight. Should look a little different. Should be a little sharper. Should look a little cooler. Fingers crossed. Because I did spend a couple hours today diving into some things. So let's move on over to the other camera, and I will provide my final thoughts as well as my review score. All right, so what was it, about a half hour talking about it? About as long as it takes to play. There's a lot to like with Thieves Den. I personally really enjoy it. Cameron likes it. My nephew Cameron. His girlfriend liked it. We last time we played a 3-player game, because we had played 4 and 5. Played a 3-player game, and it was super close. Even with my nephew Cameron not always completely understanding the complete concepts to the game itself, because it can be a little tricky, especially for people if you have not played any kind of like engine building, tableau building, anything like that. You're kind of like, so how do I get this thing running like a dream, right? How do I get this clicking? Whereas a couple of playthroughs with other people, I was like, oh, okay, so I get it. But so I really, really do like it. I think it's a very nice, lightweight worker placement game to introduce people to little heavier board games, as opposed to, say, casual board games like Risk or even like Carcassonne, stuff like that. Catan, I would say, I don't know, I don't play that much Catan. But to me, Catan's kind of a light game. Rules light, at least. So I like a lot of this. I think it's a lot of fun. I like there's a little bit of take that, but it's not terrible. Because effectively what you're doing is you're blocking people from trying to do things that they want to by your worker placement, or buying, I should say selling your treasures to the witch. You can kind of block people out, but as opposed to like just going right after somebody else, no, there isn't that kind of take that. But there is a little bit of gotcha, which I like. I'm a fan of. I don't necessarily need to sit around the gaming table singing Kumbaya with everybody. I like to, but then again, I grew up with war games and stuff, so. But I will say, I will give it a little bit of a knock, and that is because of the cardstock. So I think the cardstock's a little thin. It's not terrible, but it is a little bit thin. Thankfully, it's not like, I don't know if anyone out there has played Palm Island, which is kind of a little solitaire. Well, you can play 2 players, I guess. Little card game. But the way the card material for those, like, you pick up the deck and the cards all fly out of your hand. This is close to that. It's not exactly, but it is close. So, once again, that's the only real little ding I've got as far as this goes. I have not really played much 2-player. I played once with the 2-player rules. I have to be very honest. Personally, 3 or more. 4-player game was really good. We really had a good time with the 4-player game. Once again, played about 45 minutes, maybe close to an hour. But that was the first time 2 players had played. So, all in all, I have to say, I really wholeheartedly recommend Thieves Den from Daily Magic Games. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give the game a very, very solid 8.8, and do recommend that you check it out, especially for family gamers out there who want something a little meatier than some of the casual family games out there. Do want to point out once again, this is for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, plays in around 45 minutes. Let's say 30 minutes to an hour is probably more along those lines. Does carry an MSRP of $50. I have seen Thieves Den online, I will point out, for about $35. Nice deal. Really, really nice deal for that. All right, so that is it for tonight's show. Kind of a little quiet Friday night, which is okay. Kabuki Kid says, I have Palm Island with the plastic cards. Yes, that if you're not careful, just go flying all over the place. It's like, hey, I'm playing 52 pickup. That happened the first time I cracked open that little deck. I was like, what the? That is a cool little game, though. That is a fun little game. Okay, so what's cooking for the show next week? On Monday's show, I will be reviewing and paging through the first part of the Extinction Curse Adventure Path for Pathfinder. Yes, the show must go on. That'll be on Monday's show. Tuesday, next week's a lot of reviews. I'm going to review Sanctuary from Czech Games Edition, so that will be on Tuesday's show. Wednesday, unless the curse continues, I will be sharing a bit about how to play and reviewing Ancient Civilizations of the Inner Sea. Thursday, we're going to do another Pathfinder release. We're going to take a first look at the Gods and Magic Lost Omens hardcover, which is from Paizo. Like I said, the fine folks over at Paizo sent me some goodies. Then on Friday's show, which I wasn't sure what I was going to do when I did last night's show, I am going to review Egizia Shifting Sands from my pals over at Stronghold Games. I always love to point out that these can't change because, especially when I get something that's shipped to me and it's like, oh my gosh, this is something that's hot. Sometimes I'll push something back. A lot of times, if it's something that I know I'm going to be the first person getting a video out there of it, then I'm all for it. So I do want to point out, I know Mark H. Walker over at Flying Pig Games is sending me a prototype for La Resistance, which I talked about in the Tabletop Gaming News last night. If that does show up, I will probably take a first look at that day. So, because that Kickstarter's on right now. So Kabuki Kid says, yeah, Palm Island is a clever game and novel. It is. In fact, it's sitting right here. Yes, it is a fun game. And it's a cool game you can bring on a plane with you. So because you don't actually need a table to play, although it can get kind of odd turning the cards around with those plastic cards, because if you're not careful, they just go all over. All right, so everybody have a wonderful Friday night. Have a great weekend ahead. As I always like to point out, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you do, don't forget, ring that little bell, because it will not only notify you of when the Daily Dope goes live, it'll also tell you when I upload standalone videos as well. So, of course, a little quiet for the live stream, which is not unusual on a Friday. So we did have Kabuki Kid and Melwinius Cyrano Olfram hanging out, and we had a couple other people watching. And it's okay, you don't have to chime in. You can, I don't consider it lurking, I just consider it viewing. So anyway, everybody have a great weekend, and of course, really appreciate both Melwinius and Kabuki Kid keeping me company here, so I'm not like a dope talking into a camera to no one. So, but if you watch after the fact, even if you're watching on Memorex, I really appreciate that as well. So, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel here on YouTube, please be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Have a great weekend. I will be back Monday. And of course, until then, happy trails. Oh, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. And of course, if you want to catch up on past episodes of The Daily Dope, check out this playlist. And if you'd like to see what YouTube's recommending you take a peek at from the channel, just give a click right over here. Of course, I'm Jeff McAleer, and once again, thank you very much for watching.